Before we get started, this video will contain spoilers for 7.0 Dawntrail. Discretion is advised. Of all the lame excuses for Dawntrail's disastrous MSQ, my personal favorite is, it's a new chapter in the series. They have to build up a new plotline, so of course it's going to drag in places. Just give it time. Sure, we'll just ignore the fact that no franchise in history would exist if we clung to that nonsense. Starting a new story requires a decent pull, an intriguing premise, one hell of an opening, fan service, take your pick. You don't need something overly complicated. Hell, Pirates of the Caribbean was inspired by a Disneyland attraction, and that was one of the greatest cinematic experiences of my teenage years. 2 decades later, it's still phenomenal. Dawntrail was inspired by ingesting ludicrous amounts of narcotics and vomiting up a script. I assume, at least. I refuse to believe effort went into this, and you need look no further than the beginning quest in the bulk of the game's first half, the Rite of Succession. But before we get into that, I have a confession to make. I royally screwed up something in my Dawntrail Villains video that needs to be corrected. See, I had said Sphene was escaping to another reality where she would enact her plan to harvest people's souls to keep her citizens alive. Yeah, that was completely off. She was planning to merge Alexandria entirely with the Source. Definitely a fair difference that. In my defense, our behavior and living memory did not reflect people who were on the clock. We were running around shutting down these terminals that had no relevance to the larger plot. For time being of the essence, we sure did treat the matter like a casual evening out on the town. That we never tried to infiltrate the Mezzo terminal. There was too much at risk not to try, and we have a whole cast of capable characters right outside the joint who could have helped. An idea that was never considered. Sphene's plan to turn the Theris into the setting of the Matrix wasn't really referenced while we were deleting the Endless. They did not treat the situation like a big deal despite clearly making it one. And then there's still the other problems I discussed. Sphene has no army. Even if everybody gets trapped in the Stormlands, no nation would willfully accept Alexandria's rule. She would be overthrown in no time, again, making her machinations short-sighted and stupid. If you want to argue that the complete dimensional fusion would kill everybody at once, then why the hell didn't they do that when they created the beachhead in Shaloni? Yes, I can't pronounce it. I felt like the Wild West references were starting to get stale. Really though, all Sphene did here was increase the burden on Alexandria. Why would she do that if claiming everybody's souls was the goal? Matter of fact, if the fusion could kill everybody, why wouldn't Zorolja use this as a weapon, either on Turol or Alexandria itself? It would make his snap moment here far more profound to know he had a literal WMD on reserve if things got dicey. Maybe Sphene kept that ability secret, but since she had no other controls nor countermeasures when Zorol went all Anakin Skywalker on them, that's not really in line with her actions. Also, what does erasing her memories have to do with any of this? Sphene blurted out her plans in front of us. She knows she's on the clock. Use the key now if it'll destroy any and all opposition, unless she can't actually do that. But then what the specter hell are we doing? Sphene is an idiot, through and through. None of the elements in play carry any weight to them because nothing has been developed. Sphene's character is all over the place. The key had virtually no development either. Fascinating implications, but they're just implications right now. Whatever abilities it has are up in the air, minimalizing it as a threat. The tone and writing treated living memory like a tourist side quest, not a race against time. I still have no idea what they wanted us to think or feel about this place. It's a complete fustercluck. All the same, that was an error on my part and I do sincerely apologize for it. As much as I criticize others, I should practice what I preach.
Guys, I'm an asshole.
So, I'ma do better. Enough about me, let's get back to shouting all over this game. So I mentioned last time that I wanted to tweak the formula a bit and start rewriting the script while we criticize it. I am a man of my word, and I can think of no better place to point out the issues than right here at the very start.
You must travel the lands of Yogg-Turol and find the City of Gold.
Yeah, this right here, this is stupid. This decision is to blame for all the insurmountable headaches we're gonna face in this game. Everything with Alexandria, from the assault on Tuliyola to Sphene obtaining the key to living memory, is because of this one decision. A decision that should never have happened. Galuf, the Charlian nerd Galul employed to investigate said city, he apparently saw something so terrifying he opted to place a barrier over the entrance so nobody else would attempt to gain access. It was so imperative that the existence of the city, as well as the location, remained hidden for 2 decades. These few facts should be enough to tell us that the secret was not something to be spoken of trivially. Up until Galul decided to make a competition to find the damn thing. This reject had what may well have been Pandora's box right underneath his kingdom and opted to show it off to the world. And as Galul himself admits, the Rite of Succession is meant to cultivate a leader for the country. So we are exposing a ticking time bomb for the world to see in the expectation of facilitating character development. I'm starting to see where Wuk's utter incompetence comes from.
You might be the worst soldiers I have ever met.
Hey, I take offense at that. What do you mean might be?
Everything about this is moronic. Exposing the Golden City's existence is bad enough. Demanding its discovery is only worse, especially since Galuf warned him of the risks. Galul jeopardized his people's security for a stupid game. He was too inept to see that at least half the claimants were shady as sweet holy hell, and revealing a danger of this magnitude was bound to end horribly. Was he so confident the key would never be taken? The damn thing got snatched off screen with seemingly little difficulty. Why would he not bury the key someplace obscure when nobody would ever think to look for it? He had ample choices. The mountain peak guarded by Santa Claus would have done the trick. Why are you so cavalier about the single greatest security risk to your nation's well-being? Man, Endwalker painted Amarok as incompetent to excuse abandoning them to die, just to immediately give us these backwards idiots. Galul is revered as both wise and powerful, a noble leader in every facet. Yet his actions and inactions both paint a different picture. We saw as much with his indifference to the Mamul and their plights. Their very easily fixable plights. And now he is turning Pandora's box into a tourist attraction. Can we go home now, please? I miss Eorzea. What they should have done is alter the motivation for finding the city. Let's integrate the plots between Tural and Alexandria a bit better. So the storm at the start of the game, which they tried to pin on Valigamanda, the rather underwhelming bipolar bird monster, yeah, screw that. Instead, have the storm and other residual issues around Tural be the result of the gate's presence. The barrier is wearing down, it's not as effective as it used to be. Alexandria is a storm-ridden world after all. Having some residual lightning ether pour into our world causing devastation would fit in perfectly. It would better connect the A and B plots of the game, making the transition smoother as well as more build-up, giving you a better payoff further down the line. For you to recognize that all these seemingly random phenomena link together in an unforeseeable way. The competition, apart from determining a suitable leader, is meant to help repair the barrier and strengthen it. They had similar plans to reinforce Valigamanda's stasis after all. Just move that motivation to the Golden City, and we're set. The tablets and the corresponding gems we receive are a powerful binding spell, a newly crafted incantation far stronger than the original one. We could also tease this development a bit. Have characters speak at the city's top sorcerers being occupied for months at the Dawn Servant's behest. The city could benefit from a bit more substance to stand out on its own too. Maybe the casters in this society are especially revered given the complicated terrain. Magic is especially essential to Tural's efficiency. You could have an established magic bureau of sorts that have their own influence around the country. That's a whole new dynamic to work with from that perspective alone. This could also feed into Kona's dedication to technological development of providing means to regular folk with no arcane aptitude. There's a lot you can do with some minor changes. What matters here is that the end goal of the competition is to trace Golul's legacy to the Golden City and reseal the entrance. And when he appears at the end to congratulate us, he can explain the potential dangers the area poses and what the tablets were meant to do. Maybe tease more of the history behind all this, rather than holding that over our heads for even longer. You douche. Galul Jaja was a nice character on the surface. Closer examination only betrays how short-sighted Dawntrail's writing was. Their neglect of the Dawn Servant made him out to be a liability, a careless leader who never did anything for his people after founding his kingdom.
Get out of the tank, you senile little fucking son of a bitch! Finger slip.
Honestly, tweak a few motivations and this guy could have been an antagonist. He's that poorly written. It reminds me too much of Anah's issues. Sweet and inspiring on the surface. A closer look and we see she's a succubus looking to eat you inside out. And not in the fun way. Changing Galul's motivation for finding the entrance will be the first step in providing more flavor to the overarching plot as well as improving Galul's character. Galul's age was often referenced in-game, even while showing him to still be an unwavering powerhouse. It kinda made it hard to take much of his concerns to heart when he showed little signs of slowing down, even with his wiser half dead, for 3 years no less. They should have shown him only capable of fighting in short bursts. Both of his fights with us and Estinian were cut short. This could have been intentional, him looking for an excuse to quit before his vitality wore out. It would add to his burden of fighting a suitable heir. Seeing a man in his twilight years struggling to make sure his labors weren't for nothing, that his legacy and those who depended on it continue after he's gone. This fear of his limitations could have driven him to desperation. It's why, despite his son's callousness and his adoptive children having their own shortcomings, some more than others, clearly, that Galul will be willing to risk so much, creating a competition for leadership, exposing the city despite the dangers. The man is in his waning years. Even now he wonders where the time had gone. What would he do with another 80 years to spare? And if such ambitions would be worth it? Another thought to brew in the back of our heads until living memory is reached. And these kind of questions can be discussed. Development, even in minor amounts, can make a tremendous difference. So, we have a different end goal for the competition, and we've connected Alexandria to the A-plot more thoroughly. What about the start? What were the issues there?
Wuk Lamat!
Cripes, I hardly know where to start with this woman. Does she ever shut up? That's rhetorical. I know she doesn't. That's why I hate her, and everything else about her too. Just because. Let's be honest for a sec, the entire beginning of Dawntrail was a mess. We were given zero prep time leading into this expansion. A literal half-story patch was all they gave us to set up the characters, the motivations, and the environment. Shadowbringers, love it though I may, it suffered from how rushed Elidibus's part of the story was. Our final confrontation in 5.3 itself was epic. Top 5 favorite gaming moments right fucking here. But he had a whopping 3 MSQ patches to develop, and that left only 2 more to build up into Endwalker itself, also not ideal, considering they crammed 2 whole expansions worth of material into a single game. It should go without saying that the meager half-story patch we got for Dawntrail wasn't going to cut it. We barely knew this person, barely had a grasp of the political situation in Tural, and yet we jumped dick first without a clue as to which way the shit was hitting the fan. Anything could have happened, and it gave us what had to be the safest and most bland beginning to a game in Final Fantasy history. Squall being all edgelordy and rejecting advances from his teacher, oh my, was more engaging than this garbage was. You know, we were told this would be a vacation, so why the hell shouldn't we make the first section of Dawntrail a vacation? Give us time to explore, to roam, let us get a feel for the region and its people before we place our bets in a competition that we don't have any stake in. This would show agency for us and the Scions, especially since we're interfering in the political culture of another nation. Generally, the Scions avoid politics altogether without substantial reason. Now, Zoral wanting to wage war? That could certainly be enough, but to accept Wuk's proposal without investigating, seeing for ourselves what she's about, that's rather foolish on our part. The last time we were this lax to our surroundings, we were accused of regicide. That was not a pleasant evening. I hate formal occasions as is. Now, the one thing they did right here was giving us a choice on where we wanted to start. We could visit the midget people. Seriously, what is with fantasy and midget races? We have the Lullafels, we have these beak-wearing pricks. Okay, yeah, that's it, but it's still weird we have them twice. Anyways, it's them or the Hanu quest. Just like in Shadowbringers, where we could choose Kalusia or Amarang, and Endwalker with Charlene or Thavnair. What Square should have done is build upon that for this expansion. First off, let us explore these areas before the rite has started. Get a feel for the region, understand some of their customs, the local concerns too. You could tie these into our quests later, once again better connecting the different story beats to one another. I spoke on this in the previous video, interlinking different events, situations, and characters creates new scenarios for your story, new dynamics that could put a twist in the narrative. Imagine visiting the Hanu before the competition begins. We see how the crops have been damaged in the storm. Maybe it's something we discuss with the locals, giving us some hints to exploit when we return. Simple things like that. It not only makes the story more energetic, but it gets you invested knowing that something is going to creep its way back into the story later down the line. You know, it's jarring when the polar opposite happens. Look at Wuk's baby daddy. Her origins were spoken of a couple times, letting us know her birth family was potentially still out there. But her biological father was abruptly thrown in just to facilitate her fight with Bakul. Pulling us, of all people, aside to drop this plot twist of being Wuk's father felt incredibly out of place. I appreciate your feelings, bro, but you've known me for 5 freaking minutes. Why are you getting so intimate? It feels out of place because it was. There was little reason for the man to do this. And then after the fight, he and Wuk have their very underwhelming chit-chat, and that's it. It never comes up again. Sure, it still could somewhere in the post-patches, as if anybody really wants to see more of this incessant furry twat. Point is, it was a lousy investment and a waste of time. Time the writers had an abundance of. Just think how many montages of talking and standing around we had to sit through. And the head nodding. My god, the head nodding. So many scenes of different people nodding from different angles for no reason. That emote needs to be deleted from the game immediately.
It just looks like a bunch of helmets bobbing up and down.
Is that how they talk? They look ridiculous.
So, open up the first parts of a few regions to explore at our own discretion. The Pelu, the Hanu, and screw it. Let us visit parts of Shaloni. There was no reason to hold that over our heads until Wuk won the competition. Estinian was already wandering around by the time we caught up. Also, it's complete bullshit that he got paid for his scuffle with Galul, and all we got was more talking. If the quest rewards are going to remain crap, at least give us something entertaining to do. Between 3 different zones to explore freely, with our own quest to perform giving us a better insight into their society, this would inspire us to invest our time and efforts into Rol. I cannot be the only one who could never bother with these people start to finish. The game never allowed me the time to appreciate them. None of us were given the opportunity. Just like their heroine, we were told to like them. We were expected to like them. This whole country is shoved down our throats before the development even began. That is a terrible way to endear your audience to anyone or anything. No expansion in the series has given us so little time to develop, to bond with the people and the environment as Dawntrail did, to even Shadowbringers when it immediately thrusts us into a parallel world. We were allowed time to explore the Castellarium. We connect with the various pockets of society while regrouping with the Scions. Every region had its own charm, its uniqueness that makes them stand out. And the writers weaved these characteristics throughout the story so it felt natural. Because the writers concerned themselves directly with the cultures and customs of each area, it was abrupt and in your face. Despite being the function of the story, it felt unnatural. It felt forced. And occupying half of the game's runtime, it became repetitive, awfully fast. The fatigue was unreal, it was torture. Even story-oriented gameplay like Final Fantasy XIV needs to balance that out somehow. With not one, but 3 areas to explore ourselves. It would provide an open world early in-game. Leave sections unreachable until later, of course, don't want to spoil the progression too much, just enough to whet our appetites. Give us time to stretch our legs, keep Wuk Lamat away from us. There will be plenty of removing her in these rewrites, you better as hell believe it. Apart from all this, we'll have time to see what reputations the other contestants have. Much of their personalities and character motivations are virtually spat at us when the ride kicks off. It was boring, insulting. I don't want to be told about these guys, I want to see them in action. Zorol had just returned from slaying one of these Vidrol, or how the hell ever you say it. Why don't you have us happen across this event during our time roaming? Have him forbid us from interfering, even as others are getting hurt. We'll see firsthand how skilled he is, and how vicious. Perhaps provide some context as to why he craves warfare. Zorol's screen time was so minuscule it made him a joke, and I maintain that was a waste. He had real potential. We can also meet Kona and Shaloni, helping with the new train system. He can speak of plans to expand the lines to other regions. Maybe provide clues that the Dawn Servant is okay with these innovations. We never saw much on that. It would help form a bond between Kona and his adoptive father. This time period of wandering around could have been used to kickstart several character arcs. Multiple plotlines of various importance. Much of what we lacked in the game, it was a missed opportunity replaced with a repetitive questline that constantly reaffirmed what an amazing person Wuk Lamat is. This one has so much wrong with her, apart from her being the center of attention, even in storylines where she's not present. The non-stop exposure combined with the cyclical story beats and the ungodly ass-pulling needed to validate this twat at every turn makes her easily one of the worst characters this series has introduced. And though I'm not inclined to play nice, I do think we can mend this issue a bit. For starters, Wuk speaks of how she's been cooped up at the palace most of her life. We're gonna cut that and make her a more adventurous sort. Not unlike us, though she is lacking experience. She's someone with grit and potential but rough around the edges. I got the impression the writers were going for a naive but well-meaning princess ignorant of the world a bit, with Wuk being a homebody all her life. But this only makes her look sheltered and considerate of the people she claims to love so dearly. And considering she crossed a colossal ocean to recruit help, despite offering no such initiative in her own homeland, it makes Wuk look like a selfish little shite. I speak on this aplenty in my video on her, link down below. Just let Wuk be adventurous, someone who has traveled the many roads of Tyrol making friends with the locals. She's well known to people, a decent sort, but not one to leave much impression, unlike her brothers. It shows she has a reputation, nothing exciting but room to grow. And her having knowledge of the locals could ease the world building by not needing random NPCs to explain every damn custom and habit of theirs. We have a lot of encyclopedia content to get through. This would also provide Wuk with more contacts throughout Tyrol. The game seriously lacked character diversity, an irony that I have not gotten over. The few people we do interact with are temporary and mainly serve to benefit Wuk's development. A larger ensemble cast arguing over the many zones we visit creates new opportunities and story beats for us to pursue. But most importantly for Wuk, beyond getting some distance from her now and again, she needs to get put through the ringer. She needs stakes and consequences for her actions. She needs to be wrong about things, critically wrong. Wuk's near infallibility was only mildly hidden by her quirky personality, like her food fetish and motion sickness. And said sickness had completely disappeared as the story progressed. I guess it's tough making your character look super cool if they get woozy every time the ground shudders, which, you know, in these games is all the time. Beyond these, her flaws are superficial. Any idea Wuk posits is the correct course even when pulled out of nowhere. Just remember that dumbass float from the Hanu. Alright, so here's how we set the stage. With these first 2 challenges we face, the Pelu and the Hanu, we're going to have Wuk fail one of them. I personally propose the Hanu, because I despise this thing and everything regarding it. Kill it with fire. The float was suggested at random and had no basis when she suggested we fix it up. And the Hanu forgetting that the float was vital to growing their food was a special kind of demented to have me questioning my sanity. I thought I misremembered that until I rewatched the scenes. Nobody in any form of reality would forget something this pivotal to their survival. Whoever conjured this up should be banned from owning any writing material, pens, computers, all of it. With this rewrite, Wuk is going to be wrong, straight up. The float is just a festival item, and despite our resourcefulness, nobody has a solution to the reeds dying, and thus we failed the challenge. I want to be clear, this isn't to shame her. I hate this character. I almost miss Finn Daniel after having to listen to her for a whole expansion, but disparaging Wuk does not accomplish anything. This is to teach her the importance of not being impulsive. Leadership stems from more than just caring about people. Understanding their culture is a nice start, but it cannot solve every problem you're bound to face. If Galul Zhazha wants his competition to cultivate a suitable leader, that would be an important lesson. Wuk's jumping at random ideas benefits nobody, and a true Dawn servant would understand this. It's a painful experience for her. There are many things about the challenges she never expected to face, but they are enlightening. This would set the mood for the remaining challenges. Not only would Wuk need to be more attentive towards the situation she faces, more open to suggestions from others rather than being right about everything, but it's with the knowledge that she's short a keystone. Wuk stands no chance at victory. Yet let's say she wants to continue the pursuit, even if it leads to nothing. And after some grumbling and self-doubt, Wuk asks us if we'll accompany her. There's still much she needs to learn. We were supposed to serve as a mentor, but considering Wuk is never wrong, wins every major fight, we're more like her cheerleader than a mentor. That was an error on the writer's part. This new direction creates a dilemma of, why bother if she's already failed? But as we'd learn from Galul later on, the challenge was meant to help inspire leadership, not just establish one. There will still be a chance Wuk's actions aren't for nothing. And besides, we still have the twins and Krile along for their journeys. It's not just about Wuk. Writers, did you hear that? You better have. And now, we're focusing on our teammates. Trash. Yeah, no, you were all useless. Krile is just background noise for most of the game. The only truly intimate moments with her were in living memory when we meet her parents. And since so many people are determined to argue the residents there are just reprogrammed ones and zeros, it's debatable if that's even worth much. Krile has real stakes in this venture, yet she's never allowed to capitalize on them, given no attention, making her a waste of animation like most everybody else. And this was completely avoidable. Matter of fact, I think Square botched this entire build-up. Many moments meant to tease the city are completely abandoned concepts. Concepts that, when looked at a closer detail, don't add up. Take the Yokoi, for example. They once launched a massive campaign to find a city after experiencing numerous visions. Okay, with phenomena like the Echo, it's not a stretch to consider that so many could have visions of this place. It's everything else that's confusing. Why were they envisioning living memory specifically? The Echo works by experiencing memories recalled by a person in real time or by recreating scenarios from ambient ether. She-Bitch from Endwalker explains as much. The city, however, is hidden. Why would its presence cause so many different people to have these visions? Has anything else had the same effect in Tyrell's history? Nothing seems to suggest that, so living memory having even as simple an effect as this feels random. Speaking of being confused, it's also confirmed that all these visions occurred around the Yoktel region, the forested area where that stupid-ass culinary challenge happens. But bitch, you better share. I do most of work, I get most of food. Alright, side tangent. This quest was a wasted opportunity like everything else. Why have Wuk team up with Kona, when having her butt heads with Zorol would have been far more rewarding? He loses the next challenge anyway, so him receiving a keystone here thanks to Wuk doesn't change the narrative. In fact, his stubbornness could clash with Wuk wanting to take the diplomatic approach. And they win only because of her patience, something that irks Zorol. It would be a personal frustration and appear less petty than how it was in the original version. I will never stop being bewildered by how Zorol was treated. It would have been so easy to fix, so simple. I don't think it was even a time limit. I genuinely believe the writers never gave a rat's ass. Few projects hold such little regard for their own products as this game does, and it shows. Zorol is someone we'll talk about in another video, maybe one of his own or as part of another topic. Anyways, back to Krile. It's the realization that all the Giants' visions took place around Yoktel that makes us conclude that the city must be somewhere in the forest. Naturally, the next question is where... Better question. How this factor held and nobody else put this together? It was a few conversations that revealed this to us. You mean to say that in all the centuries this legend has circulated, nobody sought out the Giants to ask what they knew about the city? Because if they did, then everybody should know the city's location would be the forest. The city has inspired many adventurers and treasure hunters to seek it out. I know the Turali are especially retarded. The fact they killed babies for centuries for a failed eugenics program should say enough. But even by that metric, this is stupid. To make it somehow worse, Sasquatch here explains they were planning a massive undertaking to cross into the northern half of the continent to seek out the city, even though all these visions reportedly happen around Yoktel. What the hell is wrong with all of you? You went the wrong freaking way. I understand why we wouldn't know any of this. We're outsiders. and the challenge was meant to provide details in small doses. The Tirali citizens, on the other hand, should never be so dense to look everywhere besides where the visions were situated. The Giants' incursion into Zak Toral was pointless if the goal was to find the city. A potential defense of this is how detached the Mamul are to the outside world. They're very private people, but considering the Yokoi once ruled an empire throughout these lands, I doubt a little xenophobia would have stopped anybody from taking a look around, and a big-ass door like this would have cued them in. Barring all that, even those in the modern era shouldn't have this issue. Plenty of Mamulja live outside their ancestral home. Between them, potential relatives back home, and a generally shared culture, enough adventurers will be aware of the Skydeep cenote. Between that and the fact that all those Yokoi visions center around the forest, there is zero excuse for the Golden City to have remained undiscovered for so long. All these different facts glued together only prove the mystery was never much of a mystery, except that the Tirali are all morons. So the obvious isn't very obvious.
It's times like these when I really wonder how we haven't been killed yet, you know?
Personally, they should have just had the location somewhere in the northern continent. It's where the dome appears when the two dimensions fuse. Having both entry points near one another is logical, and it's a sizable landmass, sparsely populated, with much terrain that'd be easy for hiding large underground cavern systems. Shit, one of the first level 100 dungeons we unlock is traversing an old settlement hidden in a deep gorge. That'd be a great location to hide something of import. As for how we'd figured it out where no one else has, it was Golul who kept the secret of the Golden City. That he had carefully obscured any information that may lead to the city's location is not out of his reach as Dawn Servant. And these administrators we deal with seem pretty close with the guy. Together, they could have kept the Golden City hidden. We can have one of the Scions realize they were the ones keeping the secret until now, so people like me don't have to make hypotheses all damn day. Now granted, this makes Golul look even more devious by letting all these adventurers wander right into their own deaths trying to find the place. But that's still leagues better than him outflat demanding we expose his existence, knowing the potential dangers. All these clues we uncover feel like random ideas the writers threw in to stir intrigue, but they never refined those facts to make them logical nor believable. Or they just never suspected random a-holes like myself would invest time into tearing their work apart. I'm not sure who that says more about, to be honest. I guess it doesn't matter much anyway. The Giants were infected by some kind of virus that led to the collapse of their empire and their species supremacy. Sasquatch is one of the few to retain their original more colossal size. In fact, it seems this plague impacted only their species, for some reason. If that alone doesn't raise an eyebrow, then also consider that the visions they were experiencing halted after the plague hit. But why though? Was it the virus? A virus that specifically targeted only one race, lessened their stature considerably, and also robbed their ability to have visions? And only visions. They still boast other magical abilities. That is a lot of very specific effects for a virus to have. A random virus at that. Because the Golden City is just a safe haven for Alexandria's dead citizenry. It couldn't create a virus to do all these things. None of the defenses we see in the Skydeep could create something so elaborate as a plague, especially since again, the incursion was going the completely wrong direction from where the city was. So the virus had to have been random, yet had such a specific impact on the Giants, which makes it sound like a deliberate bioweapon of some kind. This is what I mean by the facts not adding up, despite so much anticipation surrounding them. The virus sounded like it was punishment for those intending to find the city and its secrets, yet it appears to have no connection. Many adventurer parties have sought it out only to fail. There is much tragedy and death associated with the myth, yet they're all proven unconnected in the end. Considering how these rejects were constantly looking in the wrong place, I guess they brought all this hardship upon themselves. Despite, again, the game making it sound as though there was something more supernatural, perhaps malicious, bringing harm to those who coveted its discovery. All we got was superfluous gaslighting. Something that sounded extreme, but really wasn't as epic as the situation made it out to be. Living Memory was probably the most boring zone in the game, yet had so much hype built into its reveal. A future video will address these issues with Living Memory. That's gonna be a long one. With Krile's investment, we had all the motivation needed to research the legend more thoroughly, with more congruent facts to build upon. Golul Jaja has already confirmed the city's existence, so let us explore this plot for a little, while Wuk is running around doing whatever tasks the Giants require. Until Valigamanda awakens, we'll do her thing while she completes the rite herself, away from us. Far away from us. If we want to make things interesting, we can still develop the Yokoi. Maybe this more militant group we contend with could possess some special information on the subject. Something that was so severe it's what inspired them to break away from the others. The virus could have in fact been engineered, and now they want revenge. To reclaim their lost glory. It could be the virus coincided with the gate's original opening. The timelines for both worlds is a bit screwy with the time dilation. Something from the other side could have gotten loose. which is what caused the plague. It can be through here that we learn their endeavors to halt the disease ended near Mamuk, thus establishing the next step of the journey to find the city. These militants could have kept that secret close at heart, never allowing the main sect to learn the truth. They covet power after all. It's in line with their character to keep whatever advantage they can. Interacting with these pricks would have been far better development for Krile's quest, her determination to learn of her origins. And it's more time to invest in the other cultures Torall boasts. These grumpy giants were seriously thrown in just so, per usual. Wuk can swoop in and be awesome and self-righteous whenever convenient. In this revised version, it's Krile who gets to take center stage. Let her use those Pictomancy skills to save these guys. We can learn of Yokoi culture from them. As given their hostilities with everybody not a giant, the twins can find a means of bridging that divide. Their whole point of being here is to find means of how to rebuild Garlemald's relations with the world. A plot point I don't think ever came up in the game, certainly not in a major way. If it means that much to you, have this mini arc of ours intersect with Wuk's progress. That would have been fine. The Valigamanda fight can still proceed largely as it did in the original version, minus this scene right here, because these guys were being dicks, and we had every right to beat them up. A few select quests. That was all the writers needed to give us to earn Krile's inclusion in the game, and they botched it. She and the twins were a waste of space. By the way, all these suggestions I'm pandering at you, none of them are set in stone. These are just some ideas of how the script could have been improved without seriously altering the main ideas of the story, outside of getting us away from Wuk. I will never apologize for that. Give us Lise back, at least she's easy on the eyes. The FF7 remake gave us a bikini-clad Tifa. Meanwhile, in 14, you'll find fewer curves and a flat earther clinging to their batshit theories. It's a dry spell to put the Sahara to shame. Speaking of wastes of space, these two were especially disappointing, given the sheer entertainment we could gain from battling with our fellow Scions. Even a friendly fight would have been delightful. Between Thangrid's pragmatic fighting style and Urianger's intellect, these two could have put the Warrior of Light through some major hell. Imagine fighting these two as a boss battle in the first dungeon, rather than them simply dropping some rubble in front of us. There could be callbacks to past engagements of theirs, some friendly banter, just to buy time for Kona to get further ahead. That could have been enough. Just one major confrontation for us to get a feel for what fighting our comrades is like. It was a unique dynamic that was completely flushed down the drain. We could even crack jokes about it later on when we're taking a rest. They can praise our relentless strength, we admire their fortitude, perhaps make a comment about not aiming for the head. Thangrid, you dick. Even in a conflict, we can't remain friends. Instead, we'd sit at different tables like a high school clique. They really weren't trying at all with this. The last big change I would like to address is, surprise, surprise, Wuk freaking Lamat. Mainly how she wins the Rite of Succession. After Kona does all the work to solve the Mamul's problems, vegetables, you ended centuries of hardship and baby killing with vegetables. Okay, we're cutting that first and foremost. All of that was terrible. Anakin flirting with Padme was less cringe. MSQ should have established the issues with Mamuk. Let us begin the healing process, then the core of the problems. That is, their lack of resources can be addressed later on in a post-story patch. Or a side quest. This area is the perfect spot for the Gatherer Beast Tribe. Between finding viable crops and putting these big-ass trees to use, there's plenty to do. Instead, they gave us vegetables curing racism. It is criminal that people got paid for this. Anyways, the Rite, where Kona does all the work just to flip around and praise Wuk Lamat for caring so gosh darn much that he relinquishes his claim to the throne for her. No. He should have shot her. That would merit far greater applause. But no, instead, in this version, we decided to have Wuk fail her first challenge with a Hanu, create more of a mystery of how she'll overcome this glaring obstacle, an obstacle we can resolve through her brother's actions. Kona will see that her empathy has done good for the people, something he has always struggled with. Kona is the only contestant at this point with every other keystone, and their father Spectre stands as the last obstacle, the greatest warrior in Torall's history, someone even Zoral couldn't overcome. Oh yeah, and this rewrite actually let us see Zoral lose the fight. That was ridiculous. Let us see this. Let us see him lose. Let us see how it impacts the character. Anyways, with all these elements presented, it's Kona who admits that this is one challenge they can't overcome alone, and so destroys his tablet to join Wuk. Only instead of everybody else getting involved, it's just the two of them. Now, I suggest this mainly because our character's involvement kind of rids any real tension this scene can have. I get the impression it was meant to be more inspiring than strenuous, but all the same. Involving the guy who clapped Zodiark's cheeks of all people, it kind of spoils the mood, you know? So, just the two of them. We can control Kona for this instance, just like we did Wuk earlier against Bakul. and together they manage to defeat the Spectre. Ignoring all the sappy crap that follows, this leaves our ambitious duo with the question of how do we proceed? We can't both claim the city, or can we? This whole competition was intended to replicate Gulul's own journey, an adventure he never took alone. Apart from being two people in one body technically, he had a whole team aid in Valigamada's sealing, and many other feats. Would it be so wrong for the both of them to discover the city together? If anything, their father would approve without a second thought, which he does in the original version anyways. Thus, possessing all 7 stones together, we're able to access the entrance. And again, the tablets are a powerful incantation that will renew the barrier. After the big guy offers his congratulations, of course. This is the same outcome as before, just more compacted and efficient with the runtime. And we don't need Wuk Lamat being responsible for every damn decision made in this story. Let Kona have a say, let other people be important. It doesn't deplete your character's relevance. It keeps that character from becoming a grating and overbearing shit, which is what Wuk Lamat is. Yes, and also have Gulul explain the dangers of the city. Making us wait until after Alexandria's first assault to get answers was complete BS. It was yet more dragging out an already unbearable story. He can neglect certain details about the day the gate opened, like the interdimensional key, Krile's parents, those parts we get learned about later. Just let us know what this place is and why it was kept so well hidden.
Regular secret or top secret?
Top secret.
Damn it, the worst kind.
Making us wait even longer, dragging us through this shit-ass desert before getting any details on the very place that's been teased since the beginning of the goddamn game isn't building anticipation. It's wasting the player's time with more worthless padding. It was insulting to make us wait. This place was clearly meant to be a big deal, and it consumes the game's second half, so do yourselves a favor and treat it like the big deal it is. It's after all that we leave. And Gulul reveals the stone's purpose of reinforcing the barrier. He acknowledges the phenomena we've seen around the country were the results of the gate's influence. Even locked and sealed away, such a power cannot be trifled with. He intends to hide away the entrance as well, to ensure that future generations don't accidentally stumble upon what lies beneath. Though as we'll learn later, Zoral had been tailing us for some time, which leads to him accessing Alexandria. This gives us answers, resolutions, purpose to our pursuit beyond some senile lizard boy's game. That last part is important. Beyond the gate's relevance to the Alexandria arc, our searching for the city has no narrative value. It turns Dawntrail's initial half into even more of a borehole, realizing nothing is happening for any vital reason beyond the plot says so. And I think here is a good place to stop. There are other elements in need of mending, other characters who were treated like jokes. Future videos will tend to them. This was just to get the rewrite series started, and to recognize that Dawntrail's terrible writing really does permeate the entire game. No professional company should have this many faux pas on its record. And again, these are just my ideas. Many commenters have their own takes. Feel free to share yours down below. As for me, reliving this travesty has made me tired, pissed off, and in need of a nap. I'ma go do that. Please like and subscribe, and I'll see you all in the next one. Till then.